If Barack Obama had one wish about this presidential campaign, it would probably be, can we please hold the presidential election tomorrow? Please? You can't really call poll numbers cold, hard facts, but there are some cold, hard trends that put Obama gaining on, passing, or pulling away from John McCain in the latest battleground state surveys. According to new Quinnipiac University polls, Obama is leading by 8 points in Florida. 3 weeks ago, McCain was up by 7 there. In Ohio, which had been virtually tied recently, Quinnipiac gives Obama an 8-point lead as well. In Pennsylvania, Obama with a whopping 15-point lead. That doesn't seem possible, but still, what if it's even off by 5 points? Obama up by 10 in Pennsylvania? South of Virginia, a state that hasn't voted Democratic for president since the year Peter Sellers got a Best Actor nomination for Dr. Strangelove, 1964. The new CNN Time magazine polls show Obama up by 9 in Virginia. That represents a 13-point swing toward Obama in just 2 weeks. The same polls put Obama in Nevada up by 4, in Minnesota up by 11, and even in Missouri, CNN and Time put Obama up by 1. So if Barack Obama had one campaign wish, and it was to have the election tomorrow, and these polls were accurate, that's 2 impossibilities and 1 big if. But let's just say, if all those things happened, the electoral map would look a lot different tomorrow than it did in 2004. Real Clear Politics would project Obama winning a landslide, 353 electoral votes to John McCain's 185. Barring unforeseen changes in the space-time continuum, the campaign does have another 34 days. And for Barack Obama, this one of 34 remaining days saw something a lot of Democrats have been waiting for. Bill Clinton going hammer and tongs on behalf of Obama. Today in Florida, Clinton finally said the choice of Barack Obama is clear.
He's got better answers for the economy, for energy, for health care, for education. He knows what it will take to get this country back on track.
Among other arguments, Clinton dug at Sarah Palin, as only he'd think to do, saying President Obama would initially be occupied by domestic crises, making a seasoned vice president essential for mending America's relationships abroad. For Obama's part, he was still focused on the economic rescue bailout thing, and presumably hoping the political dynamics stayed just as they are.
While there's plenty of blame to go around, and many in Washington and on Wall Street who deserve it, all of us now have a responsibility to solve this crisis, because it affects the financial well-being of every single American. There will be time to punish those who set this fire, but now's the moment for us to come together and put the fire out.
Joining us now is Craig Crawford, MSNBC analyst and columnist for CQPolitics.com. Craig, great to see you. Thanks for sticking with us.
This would be a good time for McCain to say he doesn't read the polls.
Yeah, seriously. Those polls, those elitist polls, you mean?
Yeah.
Is there any way to tell from here whether Obama is benefiting from a bubble, a blip in the polls, or whether this is something that might last?
This started with this economic crash. I mean, Obama's poll numbers rose out of the ashes from Wall Street and seemed to be holding. He held his own in the debate against McCain, maybe even improved his position a bit. And now's the test, Rachel. In the next, I'd say, 5 or 6 days, if this lead holds, then it's real. It's structural. Because one thing we've seen over the summer is what I call this buyer's remorse in the polling. As soon as voters see headlines saying one candidate's ahead, they tend to back away from that front runner, and the other one moves up a little bit. It suggests that going into Election Day, I'd actually want to be behind 2 or 3 points if this buyer's remorse pattern keeps up.
Of all the states that we just went through in the lead-in here, the 2 biggest surprises to me were Ohio, with Obama up by 8 in a poll out today, and Florida, with Obama up in a poll today by 4. Are those the biggest eyebrow raisers for you, or are there other ones that are even more surprising to you?
I think especially Florida, because Florida's a place where McCain's been holding a lead for a long time. He won his nomination, essentially, in Florida. He's got a governor there, a Republican governor, who's very helpful to him. And that is the one that if I were a Republican, I'd be panicking because they're not going to win the election without Florida.
Do debates move poll numbers, Craig? I mean, generally speaking, did the last debate move any poll numbers?
I don't think that it's hard to extricate, which made the difference here, the debate or the economic news. They all came crashing in together, and I do think Obama did a lot of good for himself just holding his own, passing that threshold for the commander-in-chief test. And McCain did everything he could, and his surrogates afterwards using the same words, trying to say Obama was naive and dangerous. But there was nothing about Obama's performance that suggested to people he was either one of those things. So I think while it didn't move numbers in big ways, perhaps it gave people a lot of comfort on the foreign security issues that Obama can handle it.
Craig, in general, we usually say that vice presidents don't win elections, that people vote for the top of the ticket. We've seen some effort in the last week or two by liberal groups in particular to raise questions about John McCain's health and his age, demands to release his medical records. Do you see the effect of strategies like that is essentially to try to make Sarah Palin more of an issue, to try to make Sarah Palin more of a top-of-the-ticket question rather than just being seen as a traditional vice presidential choice?
Well, if the situation were reversed, I think we'd see a lot of the Republican third-party groups and support troops out there saying these kinds of things. I'm actually impressed, Rachel, to see Democrats getting a little mean. I've thought for the last few cycles they don't get mean enough. Now, I'm not saying the candidate should do these things, but those are issues on people's minds. McCain's age and what kind of vice president he would have there in case something did happen to him. I think that's a fair issue to talk about, certainly on people's minds.
One last question. I guess this is a quantitative question. What has worked best for John McCain thus far in terms of moving poll numbers in his direction? I mean, his bounce after Palin in the convention had a wicked backswing. He's much worse off than he was before that bounce. I mean, when McCain's looking at his strategic options right now, what looks like a quantitatively proven winner to him?
Well, so far, Obama's been like a cruise ship just moving down the ocean, staying on course, and McCain's like a speedboat just doing circles around him and creating a wake, catching our attention. Those are the kinds of things McCain has done successfully in the past. He seized on an issue like the Russian invasion of Georgia, got on top of that. If he can get national security back on the front pages and get this economy out of the news, that would be one way to do it. Some sort of Hail Mary involving foreign policy and national security that would get people thinking about that again, because that seems to be what pulls it back in his direction. But this feels like has for a long time a structural advantage for Barack Obama, and that's one reason he's doing so well, even though in the last couple of weeks he basically played it safe. So he just needs to run out the clock and hope McCain can't throw any more bombs.
Yeah, I was just wondering if McCain will set the idea of bombing another country to a different song. That would probably do it.
There you go.
Craig Crawford, MSNBC analyst and columnist for CQPolitics.com. Thanks for joining us, especially so late. Appreciate it, Craig.
No problem. Good to be here.